story, like a go-to story that you think is a really good story and nobody believes? 601-995-1017. Will Smith was telling a story about a encounter with a ghost that he had. He told the News International that about 27 years ago, him and a buddy, I guess, were checked into a hotel and they had to check out because of a ghost. The ghost peed in the friend's toilet and cleared all the messages off of his phone.
Interesting.
Now, remember, I said this was 27 years ago. That detail about the phone is the exact reason I do not believe this story. I think Will Smith is making it up. Because phones didn't have messages on them 27 years ago, did they?
They did. 1995 is when the SMS message debuted. It was not very popular, but I have to imagine somebody with Will Smith money back in 1998 might have had it.
What about Will Smith's friends' money?
Well, we don't know which friend it was. I'm sure he had a lot of rich friends.
I mean, I'm on record. I do not believe this story about Will Smith whatsoever. Do you have a story that you tell all the time, kind of like a go-to story that nobody believes?
I mean, this is not a go-to story. I don't find this story to be unbelievable at all, but this story bothers you to your core.
Oh, yeah.
So I did driver's ed in a box whenever I was learning how to drive, which just meant my dad taught me how to drive and he had to check so many boxes of like, yep, did that. One of those things was you were supposed to set up cones in a circle, and I was supposed to drive at 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour, and I think 60 miles per hour backwards.
60 miles an hour in reverse. You realize how insane that sounds.
I realize how insane. We stopped after 20. I did 20, and my dad was like, this is dangerous. This is nuts. I'm going to say you did it, and we're going to move on because this is nuts. But it was legit. Like, that was a real thing, and I did go 20 miles an hour without hitting a cone going in a circle.
I have never even gone fast enough in reverse that it ticks the speedometer.
It was scary. I think that's why my dad was like, we're done with this.
What is a story you tell people that nobody believes? 601-995-1017 could be some kind of ghost story like Will Smith told, or it could be something like you walked into the bathroom and Marky Mark was at the urinal with his pants around his ankles, and nobody believes that.
Great story.
That didn't happen to me. I just totally made that up on the fly. But Sabrina, what's a story you tell people that nobody believes?
When I was in high school out in Pisgah, there is a back road somewhere where there is a literal tree growing out of the back of a 1950s style truck.
What?
And this is the unbelievable part, because I promise you'll find the tree and the truck if you go out there, but this is the unbelievable part. When I was in high school, several times when I would pass that, I would see an old man in the front seat of that truck.
Really?
I believe that more than I believe the tree.
Thanks for the call, Sabrina. Appreciate you. It's a little ghost action. That's kind of spooky.
That is spooky, but I totally believe in ghosts and love to hear the ghost stories.
So my grandfather, I talk about him all the time on the show, Pap. He grew up in a neighborhood and was best friends with Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Namath. This is a true story. True story. They grew up together. They were best friends until I think they graduated high school. But my grandfather would tell us Joe Namath stories whenever I was growing up all the time. And me and my brothers were always sort of like a little bit skeptical.
Valid.
Like, maybe they grew up in the same town. They ran in same circles, but I don't know if they were best friends. So I didn't necessarily believe that. I know I believed him more than anybody else in my family did. Then years later, Joe Namath was doing an interview, and the interviewer asked Joe Namath about his hometown. And Joe Namath said, it was me and so-and-so and Richie Rachel, my best friend, which is my grandfather's name, Richard. And I saw somebody sent me the interview and they were like, is that your grandfather? And I was like, yes, 100%. That's my grandfather. They hadn't seen each other for years. I guess a couple years ago, they met up at some kind of a banquet for their hometown or something and had this big reunion. Yeah, true story. True story.
That's so cool. And your Pap is so much better than me, because if I knew anybody famous, that's all anyone would ever know about me. Like, I would never shut up about the fact that I was best friends with this Hall of Famer.
Well, the only thing you know about my grandfather is what I've said.
Yeah.
So I filter out some of the Joe Namath stuff whenever I talk about it.